Hi, it's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials as well as give a lot of baking business tips. And before we start off this video, I must apologize. My voice is a little bit raspy. I've been singing a lot with my students, and unfortunately I lost it temporarily. So I really wanted to show you guys though how I made these vegan macarons for the very first time. I'm using the exact recipe from Pies and Tacos, so I will link that down in the description box below so you guys can go and check out that recipe. I don't change anything. The only thing I do is I double it. So I took that chickpea water, or Aquafaba as it is called, and I put it into my KitchenAid stand mixer, and then I added a little bit of cream of tartar. That seems to be whipping up kind of like egg whites, which is great. I'm going to leave that whipping as I measure out the dry ingredients. So here I'm measuring out the almond flour. This really doesn't deviate at all from my regular macarons. Almond flour, icing sugar, put them together, and then you do want to make sure that you run them through some sort of sieve. I use a French sieve because it's a lot smaller, so it really gets out all of those chunks. Now, I've never worked with Aquafaba before, so I was really curious as to what would happen, and this stuff is so fun. It's even whiter and brighter, if that's possible, than egg whites. Really whips up nicely. And from the tips that I read off of the Pies and Tacos website, you want to make sure that you whip it to stiff peaks. Now, when it comes to egg whites, if you over whip and you go past the point of stiff peaks, it gets kind of this bubbly consistency. But what I'm noticing with the Aquafaba is you really can't go past that point. It's not getting bubbly at all, even though I've whipped this for quite a long time. Now, a lot of recipes that I looked at prior to choosing this one said to boil the Aquafaba down. I am all about expediency and cutting out steps that aren't necessary, so I actually just put this right in and didn't need to boil anything. And then I went ahead and I added in my sugar little by little, just like you would with the French method macaron. And then I added in my food coloring at this point as well. I wasn't sure when to do it because the recipe that I looked at, there was no food coloring in the shells, but this seemed to work really well. So I've made French method macarons and French method meringues lots of times. This was by far the easiest way to get that same kind of texture, and it happens so quickly without a lot of care or thought put into it. I know that sounds a little bit strange, but you really don't have to keep as close of an eye on this as you normally would with a French method macaron, which I am very careful to do, because if you mess up that part for the macarons, then it's over. You won't be able to salvage it. I was expecting the textures to be completely different since this is vegan, but in fact, it really did feel exactly the same as any other macaron batter that I've made. If you just handed me that bowl and told me to pipe these macarons, I would think nothing of it. It really does feel exactly the same. Now, because I was a little bit nervous of maybe over mixing, and I undermixed just a little bit because I did want this shape, but I could have gone a little bit more. I think 1 or 2 more turns of the spatula would have made these nice and flat the way I wanted them. Now, this is not a no-rest recipe, so I did let these rest for about an hour. I always find the longer I let something rest, the better chance the feet will turn out. So I decided to leave this for as long as I could until it could go nice and matte like this. So in no-rest recipes, of course, you want to make sure that it goes nice and matte. And I started this at 285 degrees Fahrenheit. I didn't turn my pans, nothing at all. I just left it in there for 20 minutes. And as you can see, I have really uneven baking here. I also have things exploding out the sides, and what I read from the tips, it says that when this happens, it means your oven temperature is too high. I can't believe I didn't know that exploding macarons like this meant that. I always thought it meant that you didn't have an even enough baking surface or that your oven temperature wasn't even enough, but in fact it really was all about having that oven temperature too high, because when I turned it down to 275 degrees Fahrenheit, then it baked up fairly evenly. Now, this pan was a little bit of a different story. This one I did in my gas oven. I didn't turn down the temperature, but for some reason the ones on the side were okay and the ones in the center were not. So that was my little experiment. But now I know if I want to make this particular recipe, 275 degrees Fahrenheit for 20 minutes, turn the pans halfway through, I'll get an even bake on this. But of course, I'm not going to let the rejects go to waste either, so I did end up airbrushing them, and I will make them into the full macaron sandwich cookies. Now what I'm doing is I'm making the buttercream, and vegan buttercream is fairly simple. It really is just my American buttercream, but I replace the butter with that plant-based alternative. And then I'm using a large French piping tip just to get these all piped in there. When I do round macarons, I tend to just use my Sultan tip, and that way I don't even really have to hold on to the macaron shells, and it's a lot faster. But because this is a shape, I am just shaping it like this. You can also add fillings, of course. You just want to make sure that you have a little dam around the whole carrot shape and then put it in. Now, it was a little risky for me to choose doing a carrot shape as opposed to just doing it round. I think if I had done it just round, I probably would have gotten even better results with this recipe. I always have a little bit of trouble with shaping sometimes, but I'm glad that a lot of these did turn out in the end. I also added on some edible grass, and at first I decided to kind of sandwich them in there, but that was taking way too long, so I actually found it a lot easier to sandwich the cookies together and then just poke in that edible grass at the top. And the reason I actually made the round one at all is because I did want to do a taste test with it.
You've eaten a lot of my macarons, so tell me how this one is.
Actually, shockingly similar to the other stuff, considering how much you changed.
Really?
Yeah. The shell texture is exactly the same. And is the buttercream different?
Yeah, it's vegan buttercream.
Maybe a little different texture to it, but overall it's not too different.
I myself am not a plant-based eater, so I really haven't ventured that much into vegan baking. I've made vegan buttercreams and a few desserts here and there, but I never ever thought that macarons would be possible, nor did I think that it would be worth the amount of work, quote unquote, for vegan macarons, because as we know, macarons take a long time. But this recipe is fantastic, and I'm definitely going to make it again. Now let's get into the subscriber submission of the video. I love these cupcakes. They are right up my alley. I absolutely love Hello Kitty, and I love the pink. So be sure to go and check them out on Instagram. Drop them a like and drop them a comment. And if you want to be the next subscriber submission of the video, then please follow me at ST Bake Shop on Instagram, where you can either tag me in a photo or send me a photo. And I do just screenshot whatever photo you guys tag me in or send me. So the wider the shot I can get, the better it's going to look on here and the better it's going to showcase your baked goods. So just be mindful of that when you are tagging me and sending me photos. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. Bye!